everyone, welcome to 2 Minutes to Review. It's Matt.
And it's Zach.
Our album review show, longest album review in under 2 minutes wins. Do classic albums, we do new albums. You click the picture, this time it is the brand new one from Between the Buried and Me. This is Colors 2.
That's right, album number 10. Technically, we're actually literally just having a debate whether or not we should count the covers album. Regardless, if you clicked on this image, you know that at least the reputation that Between the Buried and Me have as pretty much one of the most forward-thinking, ambitious, and downright awesome progressive metal bands. And every time they release a new album, there's definitely an aura of excitement. But with this particular album, I'm not going to lie, I don't know if it was maybe just me or a bunch of others also felt this way, a little bit of nerves going into this album because they decided to name this album Colors 2. That's right, it's a sequel to their game-changing album Colors. I mean, I can't believe it's been over 10 years since that was released in 2007. As we all know, that album really paved the way for what we know Between the Buried and Me is now. They added a lot more progressive elements and just really did what they wanted to do. And on one hand, it's kind of exciting when a band releases a sequel to one of their most popular albums, but it's also kind of like, oh boy, you're putting a lot of expectations behind this. Are they going to fall flat? Are they going to do the album and just the legacy of that album justice? This is one of the most original sounding bands. Why are they going backwards like this? I mean, what's going on? So a lot of mixed emotions going into this record, which is why I was really excited to give it a listen and excited to share my thoughts too. But before we both share our thoughts and really fight it out to see who can give the longest review in 2 minutes, wanted to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Lucky 13 Beard Co.
If you ever wanted to try some men's grooming products that makes your face feel really good and just gives your beard that extra, sheen and nice slick look, and it'll help you smell good too, well, this is your opportunity with the Lucky 13 Beard Co. Lucky13beardco.com. Go on there. They've got a ton of different scents, tobacco vanilla. They've got some tropical ones, dreamsicle, some fruity Fruit Loop smelling ones, but there's just a ton of great smells, and they make you feel real good as well. We're giving you 10% off to try their products. Just use the code EFP10 at checkout, and we're giving you 10% off your entire order. Lucky13beardco.com is where you're gonna want to go.
You gotta use that code EFP10, 10% off. You can't beat that. Matt, I would like to go first. I'm being rude.
You want to go first?
I'm going first.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it. Haha. Sorry. Not sorry.
You're not sorry. Who are you kidding?
I'm not sorry. Hashtag not sorry. Is that what they say?
I'm just going to roll my eyes at you.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So first, the obvious. I mean, the musicianship, incredible. No surprise. I mean, Paul Waggoner and Dustie's guitar work just incredible. And, songs like Revolution and Limbo just proves that they find the right balance of soulful and technical in their solos. And then, of course, Blake Richardson, just a monster drummer who literally, I mean, when you got someone like Mike Portnoy bowing to you, you're amazing. And of course, Mike Portnoy makes an appearance on this, but I could just listen to Blake drum all the time. So of course, musicianship, amazing. But really what makes this album special is from start to finish, it sounds like a singular piece of music. But even more amazing is that at no point, even though there's definitely long songs and long moments, you can make the argument you're listening to one long opera. At no point do I feel bored or underwhelmed or as if it's dragging. Literally from start to finish, it sounds refreshing. It sounds invigorating. And I'm just enthralled with it, everything about it. I almost it feels like I'm listening to a Tool album in that, yeah, it's a little progressive and it's a little all over the place, but I almost get a sense of adrenaline from it, even from the slow movements. And it really is such an amazing back and forth balance of different types of genres. I mean, you got songs like Never Seen, Future Shock that really are the best examples of just how they can excel at genre bending without ever ruining or changing the overall mood of the song. And then, I mean, the future is behind us. I just love how it's essentially what a song combined with extreme tech metal and 80s funk sound like. And it's boom, it's this song. And oh, wouldn't you know it? It sounds amazing. Now, I'm not going to lie. I couldn't tell you if lyrically this album is, a real sequel to Colors. But just knowing how the band went into this, just wanting to record an album that they felt they wanted to hear, what they wanted to perform, just like how they did with Colors, I can see that kind of theme to it. And just like with Colors, it really is a true marvel how this album just defies all the odds of what should and shouldn't work. On paper, an album like Colors 2 should not even be any remotely interesting. And yet, Between the Buried and Me are just that damn great and apparently have the power to alter reality. And I think Colors 2 just continues to prove how incredible of musicianships as well as songwriters they are.
End time. Star rating out of 5.
Admittedly, I could see myself, maybe not repeatedly coming to this album, but at this moment, I'm going to say 4 stars. It really is a marvel at how incredible each song plays off of each other. And it's just a great listen. Whether you're driving in the car going somewhere, whether you're working out, whether you're just doing work, it really is an incredible soundtrack that is a perfect complement to what you're doing, but also it gives you that extra jolt that you need. Kind of like how of Tool, I just feel like when I listen to it, it's almost like a great replacement for coffee. I almost wonder if maybe it would have been better for them not to call it Colors 2. Because, of course, it's going to always live in the shadow of that album. And I think it could really stand out on its own. But I really enjoyed it. So 4 stars.
Heavy words.
Yeah. So Matthew.
Zach.
Before we find out my winning score and my winning time, because obviously I won, let's find out what you think of the album. Are you ready?
Oh, you're going to let me go?
Yeah, I guess I'll let you go.
All right. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, go.
So I'm taking this from a different perspective than what Zach led. I never really got into Between the Buried and Me, and truth be told, I've never really listened to them at all. I was in college, and that's when Alaska and the Silent Circus came out, and I wasn't really the biggest fan. So sitting down and listening to this, I wanted to give them another try, and I can honestly safely say that this could be a gateway album that could lead somebody into getting into this band. To really understand the band, you need to drop the convention of what you think about heavy music is, because Between the Buried and Me have this stigma to them that they're heavy and that they're super technical. That's just not really them. I really compare them to, because this is the only way that I can compare them, is that they're a heavier version and a more progressive version of Mr. Bungle. Now, with that being said, I am not the hugest fan of Mr. Bungle. However, these guys I can get into because they just don't live in the realm of weird. It's very apparent that these guys are great at what they do when they start getting into the very progressive and very just out there moments of their music on like Fix the Error, Prehistory, and Bad Habits. Prehistory honestly really shows what the band is capable of in blending everything from different genres together, but then Bad Habits really kind of reels that back in and shows the more genre bending moments, but more within convention of what's in the metal spectrum. And honestly, that's kind of where some of my favorite parts come into this entire album, is when they do a blend on there of like a Deftones-esque type sound meets, the only way to describe this is kind of like an angelic choir. And then songs like Turbulent sound like they could have easily have been written and performed by Dream Theater. And if you dropped it on a Dream Theater album, I don't think I could tell the difference. The only difference really that I can tell between most progressive bands that do all this kind of genre bending is that Between the Buried and Me lives in like a more growl territory that leads more to their metal roots. And honestly, I think that's where it kind of differentiates them from anybody else who's really progressive, like a Dream Theater, because they don't really sing like a James LaBrie from Dream Theater does. But they do start to get really soulful and tasty in different areas with the guitar playing, and especially on the instrumental Suffnado, I think that's what it's called. But all in all, this album is just a really good album from a band that I wasn't expecting to really like.
Time's locked in. What is your star ranking out of 5?
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah. anytime we start getting into these genre, like the genre bending thing, and anytime I have to introduce the name Mr. Bungle into a conversation, it's not going in a direction that I like.
See, and I love Mr. Bungle. I
And
get the
that's
comparison, but I initially wouldn't think of it. But there's definitely certain things they lift from it. It is a more serious, like, no, we're not just going to sing ridiculous lyrics. Like, we're a serious band.
like, I forget where it resides. I think it's sometime in Fix the Error, but they start introducing like cartoon sound effects, and they start introducing like what could be music to a Saturday morning cartoon. When you start going that far off the rails, that's where you're starting to lose me. But coming back to what it means to be progressive and what it means to take something to its limit before it gets to that ridiculous point. I like where they go on here because it goes and pushes that far, and it really leads to a lot of intrigue to think, hey, where could they go to next? Or are they going to go further into this idea, or is it just like to this one segment of the song? And being into the progressive music like I am, I love Dream Theater, love Tool. When you start to get into those kind of progressive areas, there's not all of this genre bending. But then Mr. Bungle takes that too far. I think Between the Buried and Me, like I said, is that perfect encompassment of you can be out there and not go too far and it be really good without sticking to more of the, and I hate to say this about Tool, but the more traditional elements of what it means to be progressive.
So I think it's interesting you also made the Dream Theater comparison. I think it's obvious how inspired they are by Dream Theater. I would argue that they take the best elements of Dream Theater, Tool, and Mr. Bungle and find a way to wrap it all up into what I consider to be a very unique, original sounding band.
It is definitely unique and original. I wouldn't compare it to Tool. Tool
I
is
would.
very well. Hear me out. Tool rhythmically is very raw, very tribal, very grounded in earth. We've talked about this on our Tool review, what it means on their albums and their rhythms that they put into it, how grounded in just the natural rhythm of things that makes Tool unique and great. This is technical. This is very mathematical in the way that they're putting together their rhythm patterns and how they construct a song. I don't see a lot of Tool in them except for the progressive banner.
I would argue though that, well, yes, definitely Between the Buried and Me is more mathematical. There, and maybe not as tribal or raw as Tool. I get a sonic feel from some of, like, when they're not just full blast speed or where they're doing a groove. There's certain elements to it that do remind me of the same feeling. Maybe it's more of a feeling than a sound. The same feeling I get from listening to Tool, but sonically and musically, definitely more in line with a Dream Theater or Mr. Bungle, and obviously also extreme metal bands too, with the harsh vocals.
We don't want to discredit the heavy nature of them and with their vocals, and I think, like I said, that's what makes them more unique than others. Like with Dream Theater, you get a certain feel with Dream Theater, and I did get, at least for me, that feel on a couple of their songs on here when they're going through what I would consider a lighter pass. Mm-hmm. And it really feels like it could be a Dream Theater type song. But then again, you quickly switch that around and you go somewhere else. And that somewhere else is what makes them, Between the Buried and Me, more unique than, and I'm not calling Dream Theater not unique, but I mean, they're more unique than a Dream Theater because, they blend so much.
There's a more organic sound to Between the Buried and Me than most, not even just Dream Theater, but most progressive band. I think that's what turns so many people off from progressive music in general, is that it just doesn't feel organic or real or true. And to me, Between the Buried and Me, I think they found a right balance of fantastical sounding, like larger than life music, then also it still sounds human in a certain degree.
The progressive banner has always been about flashiness when it comes to your playing and showmanship with your playing. And in that banner, both a band like Dream Theater and Between the Buried and Me can live.
No, absolutely.
I think that of the two bands, Dream Theater definitely is the more, I want to say, obtainable band that you could potentially want to be like them Between the Buried and Me.
They're more traditional.
They're their own. They're their own unique thing, and I think that makes them even more progressive than Dream Theater, because back in the 70s when progressive music was becoming a thing, it was all about like 20-minute long solos and flashy playing and whatnot. And that's definitely Between the Buried and Me. They are flashy. I dare somebody to try to cover them and make it good.
So you mentioned about the length. Mm-hmm. And I think a big flaw in most progressive metal bands is that it just drags on and goes on and on. And I mentioned this in my review. At no point during this album did I feel like it just was, dragging. At no point did I feel like it was just filler, or it was just solos for the sake of soloing. I really, as I was listening to it, I'm like, oh my God, every note, every pattern is serving a purpose, not just for the song itself, but also for the whole album. And I think that's what's so astonishing about this band and this particular record too, is that it's progressive, but with a purpose, if that makes sense.
But couldn't it also be said too that with all the stuff that they're throwing in there, that is just making up for the flashiness of an older style of progressive music, because they couldn't do stuff like that back then. So now they're doing that now,
maybe it goes back to what they were saying in the inspiration behind this album, and what the inspiration behind Colors, that they wanted to make an album that they felt represented themselves and that they wanted to make. And Tommy, the singer, had a great quote where he said, especially with 2020, we really wanted to give it all we could and show the world we're still here. That's part of the reason we named the Colors too. We were in a similar spot when we did the first Colors. Back then, we had just gotten done with Ozfest. We were wondering, where do we belong in this music scene? We still struggle with that. At both of these moments in our career, we decided just to be ourselves and write the best album we can. We came out guns blazing, and I feel like it's the most creative material we've done in a long time. So to me, I just found it really interesting that, like, this is a band that I feel like you can do a whole episode. Obviously, we kind of already are, but here's a band that never felt like they fit in. So instead, they made their own trail. And I think, so your point, like making it for the flashes, I don't know if it's just them doing it because now they can. It's more of they've always been able to, and now they just said, you know what, screw it. Let's do it. Enough of what our audience, or enough of what the critics expect of us. Let's just do an album that we want to do. And I think the fact that it just worked out, that it's amazing, just proves how talented this band is.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. And, you going back to you and the Colors comment about them naming it Colors too, I think if you're in the same mindset and writing an album, it's okay to make it a sequel album, because it's not really about what's on the album, but the process behind writing it. There are albums that really claim to be sequels to other albums, looking at you, Hellbilly Deluxe 2, that, really claim to be sequels and music sequels and, albums like that. And they just don't live up to the hype. But if you're doing it from a perspective that we're writing it because we don't know where we belong or how we fit in, or, where the band is now, where do we go from here? If you're at that crossroads again and it feels like the first time, call it Colors too, because you've got to that point and now it's time for you to essentially put up or shut up again. If you're not sure where you go, do what you think you need to do to get there.
Well,
and
they definitely put
that.
up on this one. They definitely put up.
Yes.
But you know what? Who are we kidding, Matt? None of that matters. You know what really matters? The times.
Oh yeah, those
times. I know we go on. We made our own Between the Bear and Me song and just going on and on and on and on. Matt, what was my time?
Your time would be way over 2 minutes at 2 minutes 41 seconds.
Well, congratulations. You beat me by 4 seconds or whatever the math is, because you were also way over at 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So there you go.
Under.
In tribute,
okay.
Well, under me, but not over.
You were under 2 minutes.
Not under 2 minutes. This was our tribute to Between the Bear and Me. We did an extended review. Well, as you can tell, we failed once again to give a review in under 2 minutes. But that's just how incredible this album is. At least we think so. Do you agree? Do you feel that Between the Bear and Me once again lived up to their reputation? Or do you think it was a step back? Do you think it was a cop-out to call it Colors too? Let us know what you think of this album on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also subscribe to us on YouTube to listen to more podcasts like this, as well as see some pretty cool video content. And thank you once again to Lucky 13 Beard Cup.
Beard oils and balms, 10% off. Head on over to their website, Lucky13, the number, beardco.com. Put the code in EFP10 at checkout. You're going to get 10% off your order. You're going to feel great. You're going to look better. You're going to smell better. And I guarantee you, this is going to be a part of your regular routine. Lucky13beardco.com. Use EFP10 at checkout.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you join us again real soon.
See ya.